Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I got a video suggestion the other day from a viewer wanting to know what are some of the best baits that they can throw out of the back of the boat in a tournament as a co-angler. Now, the baits that I'm going to walk through are not just good for co-anglers, they're really going to be ideal baits for anybody, whether you're fishing in the front of the boat or the back of the boat. The point here is these, though, are baits that I think excel behind other anglers. So again, let me stress, they work great as a co-angler, but maybe you just happen to be fishing on a very pressured lake and you're going down the bank behind three other boats. These baits are going to excel in that situation. So it's not necessarily just as a co-angler in the back of somebody else's boat. The reality is, if you're on highly pressured bodies of water, these are some of the baits that I'm going to choose every time I'm out on the water. Today's video is brought to you by the Deep Dive app. This has had an amazing new update. As you guys know, I love the water clarity feature. As you can see right here, we're looking at Grand Lake, which just had a whole pile of rain come into it. It went from being really clear to having a lot of dirty water coming in the bottom end of it. Just an amazing feature to be able to determine where the clear water is versus the muddy water. So Deep Dive has just also introduced Stream Flow. Now this is a really cool feature that shows all of the water input coming into certain reservoirs and the amount of water coming in. So they measure it in cubic feet per second. You can see in this case, this is just a small creek, but then you can see the projected as well as the previous flows. If we move up the lake here, get into one of the larger rivers coming in, you can see here that we've got 490 cubic feet per second. And then it shows you that there's not much of a change expected. Now, if there's some rainfall coming, I'm sure those projections will change. If we scoot on over here to take a look at Kentucky Lake and Barkley Lake, much larger river systems, the Tennessee River, you can see what the projected outflow is going to be there, 28,000 cubic feet per second. Go check the Cumberland River here. We got 9.4 thousand cubic feet per second. Just an amazing feature that allows you to see all of the different water flows coming into the different parts of the lake. You can see which ones might be the most affected, which ones won't be affected, see what the projected outflow schedules are. A major feature to help you catch more fish. And that's on top of some of the other new features like the wind effects. Now, the wind effects is really cool because we've had wind effects as part of the app in the past, but all it did is show where the wind was hitting the shoreline the most, as you can see from the dots, the orange and bright red dots, which indicate where the wind is really striking. But now the wind feature also indicates what the wave action is like on the lake itself. So some of the features you're going to get from this is determining where to get from place to place safely by avoiding the heavy, rough water conditions. You'll be able to determine where you may have some of the strongest current flow and some of the places where you can fish to stay protected. Now, along with that, you still have some of my favorite features like the patterns that you've got on the lake that indicate the best baits and lures to fish with. You've also got the water inflow app, which shows you where a bunch of the rain input comes in. That can be an amazing pattern to fish throughout the year. Just a great feature to have. So many positive features anytime you're fishing or using the Deep Dive app. Just points you in the right direction to catch more fish. Whether you're a tournament angler or a local fun fisherman that's just out to catch a few fish, the Deep Dive app will help you catch more fish next time you're out on the water. Now, these baits are really in no particular order. They all excel. A lot of times it kind of depends on the water clarity, the time of the year, and basically just the situation that you find yourself in as a co-angler. So the first bait, and man, this is one that I feel like you should always have tied on pretty much no matter what, regardless of whether you're in the front of the boat or the back of the boat, is your standard wacky rig. So this is just the Berkley General, the Maxcent General, and I've got it on a core tackle weedless wacky shot. There is something special about a wacky rig. It is such a good, non-intimidating bait that the fish a lot of times will actually try to seek out. It's not necessarily like you have to put it in front of the fish's face. A lot of times when you have fish that are roaming around and cruising, the wacky rig is one of those baits that they will find. So for me, if I'm fishing behind somebody else, a wacky rig is one of those baits that I can fan cast. You don't just have to throw it cover. The biggest key is a lot of times you just have to be patient. You know, it's a slow fall. It's a slow, finessey presentation, and that's going to be the key here. If you're fishing behind somebody else that is fishing fast, they're throwing power baits, don't be afraid to take a wacky rig and just kind of fan cast it around. If you happen to be on a lake that's got some grass or some shallow cover, look for different color variations to throw at. A lot of times the boater is going to be looking for really specific targets, but a lot of times they're not going to necessarily fish just the different colored transitions. So maybe if you see a light spot within a dark area, or you see a dark spot within a light area, those are going to be key little things that the fish will relate to, that often will go missed by the boater. So that's one bait I love. Another one, and this is partial to me, is the hover rig. Now, whether you rig the hover rig on, say, a small creature bait like this 3-inch pit boss or whatever minnow style bait you want, the key here is, similar to a wacky rig, you're going to get a very slow gliding movement out of this bait that is just a very natural presentation. I cannot stress enough that your bites are going to go up under pressured situations and as a co-angler if you're throwing finessey techniques. I also want to stress, anytime you're doing that, don't concentrate on fishing what has just been fished by the person in front of you. Meaning, again, if they're throwing to the targets, if you're fishing a dock and they're throwing at the dock, throw in between the docks. Throw on the other side of the dock, meaning throw not over the walkway, but throw out further away from the dock. A lot of times there's brush piles, a lot of times there's brake lines, there could be stumps. You're looking for those targets that are not going to be hit by the person in front of you. And by fishing the exact same thing that the boater is fishing, you're not going to generate those bites that they're probably either generated first before you or didn't get to bite in the first place. So one of the biggest takeaways from this is watch where they're throwing and then cast to other areas that they're not fishing. And don't feel like you have to be throwing at a specific target. There are a lot of fish roaming. There are a lot of fish moving around and swimming around. And that's where these baits are going to come into play. And the hover rig, very similar to the wacky rig, is a great bait. Let the bait provide the action for you. Throw it out, let it just fall and let it glide and move around naturally like it does, just like the wacky rig. Let it throw it out there, let it fall, and it'll just shimmy on the fall. Those are such good characteristics to generating bites. Another one, Carolina rig, guys. Carolina rig is a really good bait. So if you happen to be fishing some deeper cover and you're looking to present a finesse presentation, grab yourself some bigger worms or creature style baits and put it on a Carolina rig, and again, fan cast it around the boat. Just a great way to generate strikes. It allows you to basically present a weightless bait pretty much at any level of the water column. So, if you're fishing 30 feet of water and you throw a 1-ounce Carolina rig, the weight will get you down there, and you can have, whether it's your Magnum hitworm or whatever it is that you're throwing on it, you can present it. And it's just a great bait at generating strikes. So definitely don't forget about your Carolina rigs. Another one, grab yourself finesse swim baits. This is a little 3.3 Kitech on a core tackle tush head. These are so good at generating strikes on really pressured bodies of water, your small little swim baits. Take them out there, fire them around, count them down to the bottom, slow retrieve them back so they're staying close to the bottom. You're going to generate strikes. And you're going to catch a lot of fish, not just bass, but you're going to catch pretty much any predatory fish that lives in that lake. And a lot of times this can work really well, again, when you're fishing behind somebody else that's throwing more aggressive power tactics. So maybe they're working a jerk bait aggressively. Maybe they're throwing a 5-inch swim bait. Maybe they're fishing hair jigs. Things that are bigger bait fish profiles. When they're doing that, pick up a small bait fish profile, a little Kitech on a tush. That's going to generate a lot of strikes. And then the last thing that I definitely think you don't want to overlook are your Fluke style baits. So this is a Fluke that just generates a ton of bites. Now I've got this rigged up here. We've got a new core tackle Fluke hook coming out. So stay tuned for that. But a Fluke is one of those baits that does a great job at imitating a dying bait fish And that's one of the easiest meals for bass out there, especially when you're talking about fishing big flats. So maybe you've got an angler that's fishing a flat and they're concentrating on stumps, or maybe they're concentrating on fishing bedding fish. Grab yourself a soft jerk bait like a Fluke, fire it in all directions around the boat without casting over your boater's line. But again, just work it nice and slow. You can twitch it, you can move it fast, kill it, let the bait do its thing. Great bait for co-anglers. Those are, if I was fishing as a co-angler in a tournament, so a BFL or something like that, those are the baits I would grab. They're still the same baits that I would grab if I was fishing by myself in a boat on a very heavily pressured body of water. So hopefully this answers the viewer question, wanting to know what baits he should use in an upcoming tournament as a co-angler. Man, you'll generate bites if you use these. And as a co-angler, a lot of times you're looking just to catch a limit. If you can catch a limit, you're probably doing pretty good. So hopefully this helps. Let me know in the comment section if you have other baits that you like to utilize when you're in a co-angler or heavily pressured body of water, so that that angler can learn from you guys as much as from me. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow.